Hello and welcome, members of the Wonderverse. I'm Hannah.
And I'm producer Nick.
And you're listening to episode 47 of Into the Wonderverse, your one and only source into all things Scarlet Witch and friends. We've been gone.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Basically, you all know I'm chronically ill, and the illness, chronically, came back.
Yeah, it was pretty scary, touch and go for a bit.
I was in the hospital. And then Nick decided to move house for some reason.
Yeah, so I've been out without internet and anything for a good few weeks.
He packed up those mics first. Like, I'm telling you this. So if you listen to the Patreon, or you've heard the episodes, you will know that he is marrying the love of my life for some reason. And the first thing he does when they start packing up their flat is pack up her workstation, which is possibly the funniest thing. She works from home, BTW. Like, why would a man do that?
Yeah, okay. Dragging me into the bus on mic, why don't you?
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, so apologies for the lack of content, not just here, but also like not being kind of catching up with the Patreon stuff. We've just everything's kind of been a bit delayed.
Mm-hmm.
So
this time of year we're cursed. Last year I broke my shoulder. This year I went to hospital. January, February, not my thing.
We'll hopefully be better next year.
Knowing you, somehow I'll find a way to give birth to the new Jesus or something.
Yeah, maybe. Basically we are now back. I got my internet and yada yada yada, and Patreon will start going again. We'll start putting up all those episodes, and we're gonna start. We're back. We're back
to come back with a bang. We are back with the interview that you've all been waiting for.
It's a big interview.
Like, I've wanted this for ages. Obviously, this time last year, we put out like we emailed him and he sent us the questions. We're entering Russell Dauterman. It is so exciting. We are so pleased that he agreed to come on the show. Obviously, this is like, I have a bucket list of people I wanted to interview, and like this is the second time I've managed to like pull.
He's like top 5, isn't he? Like, I'm pretty sure top 5.
Yeah. Like, honestly, obviously, this is just such a huge opportunity. Thank you to everyone that sent me questions. I didn't credit any questions to anyone in particular because a lot of them were similar. Yeah, I wanted to but if you sent me a question, you'll probably see an element of that in the interview. He was so kind, so generous with his time. So thank you, of course, to Russell for appearing, and you will hear the interview.
Do you want to listen to it? Let's listen to it.
Yeah. Hello there. This is one that I know a lot of you guys have been asking for. I've obviously been asking for it. This is kind of the big one. We've got Russell on the show, who is, of course, designed the modern Wanda costume, and his work has been featured in Rivals. You are the original illustrator for Jane Foster's version of Thor, which obviously Love and Thunder went on to be based on. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I wanted to just talk about for a second how deep your Wanda goes, because anyone who follows you on Tumblr should know that way back when Age of Ultron was released, you actually sketched Wanda and Pietro right before you saw the movie. I was just looking at that the other day. It's really gorgeous, and like you've been here a long time. Like, you're not new to Wanda at all.
No, that's so funny that you found that. My Wanda fandom goes back to when I was a little kid. I got into Marvel and really to comics in general through X-Men the animated series. And so, Wanda's an X-Men adjacent character at times. And so if I had to guess, I would assume my introduction to her might have been her episode of X-Men the animated series, Family Ties, I think it might have been called. But that came a little later in the show, so I'm not sure if it was that or maybe it was the Iron Man cartoon where she was, that I see her in your art for your podcast in that costume, and she was the only reason I was watching that show.
Yes, we just reviewed that recently.
Oh, did you? I'll have to listen to that. She has quite the accent in that one. But yeah, so I loved her immediately, probably from one of those cartoons, and then there was the blood ties crossover with the Avengers and X-Men comics at that time that she featured in, and so I got into her through that, and then was a big fan of the onslaught era of the Avengers, like right after the crossing. Um, and I loved Wanda in that. I loved her in the George Perez Avengers run, especially. So yeah, I've been a fan for a long time.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the animated show. I had that as one of my questions because I knew that's how you had got into Marvel in general. I wanted to know, do you have a favorite? Who was your favorite? I seen that you drew Jean Grey when you were like younger as
Mhm.
a kid. Was she your favorite, or did you have a different favorite character when you were watching that episode?
Yeah, I it was always the women. So it was Jean, Storm, and Rogue were my favorites. And that drawing that you're talking about, I have drawings from when I was probably 7-ish years old of the three of those characters, and I put an art book out last year, and I put those drawings in it. And the end of the book has that Jean Grey childhood drawing next to a new version of it that I had done like that year. So my fandom for these characters runs pretty deep.
Yeah, and you do such a gorgeous job of making, especially when you've done a bunch of Hellfire Gala looks, and I just feel like you capture the spirit and personality of each character so well. And people, obviously, you've done the covers that have all the different costumes on the front of them. Did you have a favorite
Mhm.
one of those that you've done that have all the different looks over the years?
Uh, I really do love the Wanda one. If I was gonna pick one, I'd probably have to pick the first one I did, which is the Jean Grey one.
Mhm.
That's the one that really kicked off that series. Like, I'm not the first person to do a cover like that where you're showing off the different costumes. And I'd, seen some of those over the years and really loved them. And so I had this idea to do one, but to keep the character in the same pose
Mhm.
and, arrange it in a composition. And I did a sketch of the Jean Grey one, and I sent it to Marvel and was like, I'd love to do this. If there's ever a spot that you could put it as a variant cover, I'd love that. And they liked it. And, people seemed to like it once it came out. So that started the whole series of them. So I'd have to pick that one as probably, the favorite one.
I love the Wonder Man one you did recently, obviously because the show came out. Because I think Simon is so underrated as a
Uh,
love interest. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, my favorite Avengers run is the George Perez run where they were a couple. So I, love Simon from that, and I'm probably the only person that's a fan of the Avengers United They Stand cartoon that had a great Wonder Man in it.
oh,
So yeah, that was
this is
a
the
fun
most.
one to do.
We actually interviewed Stravola, who played Wanda from that series, because it's my favorite cartoon.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my God, I'll have to listen to that too.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, do you have a Wanda ship? Like, because people ask me, are you a Wanda Vision shipper, or are you a Wanda Simon shipper? Like, um, controversial question, I know.
Yeah, I know. I don't. You're gonna get me in trouble. Prior to WandaVision, the show, I would have said Wanda and Simon.
Hmm.
Um, I really loved them in the Perez run, and um, I've always liked them together. Uh, and reading the West Coast Avengers, where you know Vision has his memories wiped, and he's so cold to Wanda, that always I was upsetting to me as a kid when I read that. Um, but I think WandaVision, the show, did such an incredible job of making those characters seem like such real people and realized people, and it gave their relationship so much depth. And the two actors are so charming that it's hard to not like that. So I'm gonna not give an answer and say that both are good in
Perfect.
different formats.
Great PR for both ships. For
Yeah.
for people that don't know, you actually got your start doing illustration for costume designing. In fact, for
Mhm.
Captain America: The First Avenger. I was wondering, is there a big difference between um working for like costume design work and comic work in terms of sketching? Is it a lot more like referencing materials? Like, what's the difference there?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I like right out of school, like I went to school for costume design, and one of my first jobs out of school was working as a costume illustrator, which is a person who works for the costume designer on the TV show or movie or in theater, and they do the designer's sketches for them. That, you know, the thing that you would show to a director to get approval, or to, you know, the person making the costume physically. So there really wasn't much of any designing on my part. It was more like, we don't have the actor yet, so somebody that kind of looks like this, and with a jacket that kind of looks like this, and pants made out of this fabric but in this kind of style, and maybe some sort of like, you know, these sort of buttons on the coat, like something like that. And then I would compile all that into a sketch that the designer would use, you know, to move things along. So that was really exciting to be part of that world. And I loved, especially to get to work on a Marvel movie in the early stages of it,
Mm-hmm.
and to see how all that worked. But in terms of like a creatively fulfilling thing, actually doing the designing for, you know, the comics has been, I mean, a lifelong dream. And that's where I'm really doing the proper designing. And
Absolutely.
it's also a little more fun to do it for comic books, where you don't have to worry too much about how things fit practically. You know,
Yeah.
I do think of that, like, for the Sorcerer Supreme costume, I did make a paper model of the cloak of levitation and folded it to make sure it could fold the way I wanted. But for the most part, you can draw something and make it fantastical, and it doesn't really have to work in the real world.
Yeah, I was thinking about that with Wanda's hair from the, from the 2000 and 2020, no, 2023. I'm like getting, yeah,
Mhm.
2023 look with the stars in her hair. I was like, I have no idea how they would ever put that on screen in like a feasible way.
Yeah. And like, I don't even know that it would translate well to the screen, but if you're, I mean, they put it in Rivals, and I think it looks great there. And, you know, it's something they could put in an animated show, or certainly in the comics, I think it works. So it's just,
Exciting.
and also the reverse is true. Like I think when superhero movies really boomed and became super popular, you saw the comics have a lot of piping and details and seams and all this stuff that looks good on screen, but is kind of a nightmare to draw over and over again.
Mhm.
And so I try to approach it as more like a 2D animation sort of look, where you, I mean, I'm a hypocrite sometimes because I make things too complicated, but uh, I try to keep it simple.
Yeah, because I think that especially Wanda's like WandaVision look is maybe when I've
Mhm.
seen it in comics, I think it must be so complicated to get, especially all the piping on like her trousers and stuff that like they have going on, because that's kind of the most common. It's become kind of the generic Wanda fit, even in merch. And I compared with her old like swimming costume look, I think there is a huge stark contrast between how much detailing there is on that the WandaVision like with the top section and that like just bathing suit that was the standard for merch for so long.
Yeah, I agree. It's a hard thing because I think audiences, especially if you're coming in from the movies, might expect a look that is more MCU-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And they would see the costumes from the 70s or 80s and think that might look a little silly.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to find a balance between the two. And, you know, I've not always been great at that, but I try. And for like the Wanda costume I designed that you were talking about, I think the lines on that are pretty simple, but
Mm-hmm.
then it includes some complicated elements that, like the hair and the star effects, that, um, you know, is open to a little bit more. You know, you don't have to have a star in the exact place
Yeah.
every time. It can,
Mm-hmm.
people can just like throw some stars on there, and it adds interest without being too specific, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. You talked a little bit earlier about the fact that obviously several of your designs have now been in Rivals. Have you ever been surprised by how they've adapted one of your designs? Because, with Rivals, it tends not to come straight from the page onto screen. Has anything ever surprised you or like interested you in the way that they've translated?
I mean, you certainly, I think the closest adaptation of my stuff would be the Wanda, design, the from the Hellfire Gala, and then what I turned into her regular costume. And they, rivals it up with a lot more detail and more extravagance that I thought looked incredible. It's, I don't, they have a very specific aesthetic that I love, that I think is amazing. And I don't think just translating it one for one from the comics would work. They kind of they rivalized everything that they take inspiration from, but I love that they give credit to where these costumes came from. Like that was amazing to see on the I don't know if it was a loading screen or whatever, but it credited the comic. Um, yeah, I love how they translated it, and it was certainly surprising because
They don't
I
know ahead of time that it's going to happen. Did you just get know when we did, or did you know beforehand?
yeah, no, I just saw it on Instagram. I didn't know ahead of time. Uh,
Is
no,
that
I
common in
I
general?
didn't know.
Obviously, like we just got the Funko Pop that is your design. Do you ever get to know, or do
Hmm.
you just find out when I post about it on Instagram?
I mostly find out from you, so thanks for the heads up.
Because I'm just curious how that works with. Does Marvel own all the copyright to your designs, or do you have any kind of
No,
power?
they own Marvel owns everything that I do for them.
Hmm.
So when the one thing I knew about Wanda related earlier was the hero clicks. Like
Hmm.
when they were doing the Hellfire Gala ones, the hero clicks people did, contact me and want to send me some, which was wonderful. So I knew about that. And, sometimes I'll hear things ahead of time, but often, with rivals or with different merch, that's happening um, not in house. So Marvel isn't doing that. They're contracting with another company, and so it's not as easy as just a friend of mine who works at Marvel can just tell me what's going on. Like there's different people involved.
That makes sense. Is there a character design that you think would look amazing in Rivals of yours that you would really love to see?
Oh, I'd really since we got the Wanda one because that would have been my choice. So other than that, I would like my Hellfire Gala Storm costume, the one where she's wearing a cape that's made of clouds and lightning, and she has the giant cloud hair. I think that one would be pretty exciting. Um, Although now that I'm thinking about it, Rivals is mostly you see the character from the back, right? So if you're
Yeah.
looking at that costume, you just see a blob of black cloud, and that might not be too interesting to look at. But maybe they could do something with it.
I really have my fingers crossed they're gonna add Sorcerer Supreme Wanda because I feel
Ugh, I'd love that.
I feel like it's needed. I feel like that's a but maybe that would get all up in Doctor Strange's business and they don't they don't want that so much. But it's one of my favorites. Obviously that's one of the most recent um character designs you've worked on.
Mm.
Like was there a lot of instruction for putting together the Sorcerer Supreme look? Or did you have a lot of freedom on that one?
I'm really glad you like that. Thank you. It's if not my favorite costume I've done. I mean, both of the Wanda costumes, actually all three, if you include the lore costume, are some of my favorite things I've ever done.
My
And
background
that,
phone, and then the
oh
other
yeah,
the mother maiden crone is like both. I have you are both of my like lock screen and my
oh
background.
that's amazing. I love to hear that. Yeah, my lock screen. If it's not embarrassing to have your own art as your lock screen, is my Sorcerer Supreme #1 cover, where she's surrounded in the circle with all the witchy stuff. Uh, that I've got, a poster of, if you can see behind me. Um, so yeah, your question was, oh, the brief on that. They sort of, they said she was going to be the Sorcerer Supreme, but the the editor Alana Smith, who's been just wonderful on all of these Scarlet Witch books, said that it was pretty much open for me to design it, but that she didn't want it to just look like Doctor Strange cosplay.
Mhm.
She wanted it to be tailored to feel like Wanda.
Mhm.
And she also said, it would be cool if we could do something different with the cloak and the Eye of Agamotto if she were wearing it in a different way. And so immediately I'm like, well, let's make it the skirt because I love the silhouette from the MCU with the skirt. I think that's just a perfect silhouette for Wanda. And, I did that for the lore costume. And so I wanted to do it again here. And I thought that would work really well and add a bit of a witchy, element with the sort of horns of the top of the skirt coming up around her hips and letting it flow and sort of almost never touching the ground. And then the eye was a little bit more complicated and took some more figuring out to do. At first, I had it was always in the same place, like on her chest, but at first, it was part of sort of a collar of jewelry, of gold jewelry that incorporated, like customary Romani coin necklaces and jewelry of that type. And, at that point, I had also had a traditional crown, like it wasn't made of, the tiara wasn't made of magic. So it looked more like a traditional Scarlet Witch costume, I suppose. And um, the great note that I got back from Marvel was, you know, do more like what you did with her Hellfire Gala costume, like put more of yourself in it.
Mhm.
And that's when I'm like, well, let's just make it more magical then, because
Mhm.
that's what I would want. And so that's when the tiara became made of magic. That's when I added the glowing sigils on her hands, and then I got rid of the whole gold collar thing and just made a pseudo necklace out of magic, and that really that really popped it out. And then Steve and I were in agreement to use the purple because we both love the Avengers United They Stand costume. So it was definitely more of a process to get it than the Hellfire Gala slash 2022 costume, which was just sort of my idea of my ideal Scarlet Witch costume, and that I had sketched out prior to ever getting those jobs. And that one came pretty fully formed, and this one took some tweaking, but I'm really thrilled with how it turned out.
I think the silhouettes that you put together are so gorgeous. I made my own acrylic standee of it because I loved it so much, and like it takes a while for merch to get out there, but I just think that your lore costume as well. I love seeing people cosplaying it. Like I just think you've put so much witchy like imagery, and I love your series where you drew everyone from Agatha all along. I think about that all the time.
Thank you. There's two more. I've haven't had time to do them, but I'm trying to do. I have two more in that series that I've sketched out that I need to finish whenever I have a day off.
I was gonna say, are we ever gonna see Mrs. Hart?
That's there's a little sketch of her on my computer, and I'm waiting. So yeah, uh, I'll
I
try
want
to schedule some time.
I wanted to ask you, obviously Agatha's gone through such a transformation in the comics recently, and we haven't gotten to see you design an Agatha look. What do you think your Agatha would look like if you were doing it? And would you prefer old Agatha or would you want to do young Agatha? Because she looks crazy in the new X
Oh,
stuff with those tights, but very not what she used to look like.
I saw that and I'm like, oh wow, and then I saw someone else post that that's not Agatha, so um, that maybe Gail said it wasn't her. So
Oh,
I
I
don't know if
well maybe it
maybe.
isn't her, but it is Salem, which is what confused me. It might like,
Oh,
but
well, I like that design no matter who it was, but it would have been a very different Agatha look. They made her young to correspond with the MCU, and then the MCU made her old. So um, I don't know. I like so when I did that cover you were talking about with the Maiden Mother Crone, I took the current Agatha design and tried to infuse some of her older look into it. Like I gave her the sort of really arched um Ursula the Sea Witch eyebrows, and I gave her more of the like bouffant sort of hair.
Mhm.
Um and I liked that combination. Um I do also really like the MCU version with all the flowy fabric, especially from Agatha along with the really long hair. I'd I'd probably I might age her up a little bit to get back to like the full head of white hair, maybe, or
Mhm.
maybe with like a streak of black instead of the other way around, and then try to do something that referenced her classic look, with the high collar and the little lace, and of course the brooch, um, but try to modernize it, in a way that I was trying to do with the other Wanda designs. But that'd be a fun one to do. Um, I the other one that I would have loved to do was Wiccan, but I think now that's been done so perfectly with the new Lucas Wernick design that that work is done.
Yes, I love the new hair. It feels very current and very kind of in line with what I think a teen Wiccan would be wearing in 2026.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's so good.
You actually have worked for both Marvel and DC because you did some work on Nightwing back in the day.
Mhm.
I have to ask you, I don't know if you've seen Heated Rivalry, but if you thought that Hudson Williams would be a good Nightwing, before I ask anything serious.
I haven't seen it yet because I don't have HBO right now. I cycle through them and I'm on Netflix, so I've been anxiously waiting to finish what we're watching on Netflix and switch over. I have seen him. I think he'd be great at that. Um, yeah, that's a good casting.
But my serious question was, is there a big difference in working for DC and Marvel? Do they have a different style of editing, or is it all very much kind of similar?
Well, I worked for my first like big two, Marvel or DC job was at DC, and that was uh 10, 12 years ago or so at this point. So, and there was a different regime in charge then. And I also had no idea what I was doing. So it's hard to judge that experience. But I am actually working for DC again right now because even though I'm under contract with Marvel, I'm doing a short story in the new one of the Marvel DC crossovers. Um, and so, I'm tangentially working with DC, and they've been great with their feedback, and their notes have been really helpful. Um, I'm doing you mentioned Thor earlier. I'm working with Jason Aaron and Matt Wilson, the amazing colorist. We're doing a Jane Foster Thor meets Wonder Woman story in April's Spider-Man Superman that we just turned in the finished pages, and I'm excited for people to see that.
I think that's such a great combination. I think like I've loved to see some of the pairings. Obviously, I love the cover of. I would have loved to have seen you do Zantana and Wanda together because I feel like
Mm.
they're the witches. But obviously, David did an amazing job with that as well. But I think
Mhm.
some people were asking. I had a lot of feedback. People saying that they would love to see you draw Zantana and wondering what you would do with her. But I don't know if you've ever thought about that at all.
I have, yeah, because when I think of magic characters, I think more in the Scarlet Witch, Wiccan, Doctor Strange vein, which is witchier look, for lack of a better word, as opposed to the sort of Vegas magician
Yeah.
look that Satana has. So I don't like, I've never really played in that area of designing something akin to that, but I do super love the absolute Satana that I believe Hayden Sherman designed. That's my favorite book right now, Absolute Wonder Woman, and I love the take on her there. That sort of eschews the the Vegas bit for something kind of gothy punk rock uh, vibe that I just love. So yeah, that would be a fun one to do. Um, yeah, I'd have to think about that.
Yeah. I also wanted to talk about, I love when comic characters have a street style, and you have done some gorgeous street style for Wanda. I think specifically about, she's like wearing like a green blouse and those like wider trousers from the 2023
Mhm.
Glass Door run. Do you have any specific street style influences for her? Any like celebrities or women in fashion that you think of for Wanda, or is she very much her own entity to you?
It wasn't so much a specific person as it was a specific style. Like, I really loved doing that. I obviously carried over the sort of rings that I had designed for her main costume, and um, gave her, my favorite bit on that is the sort of ring that connects to her bracelet. Um, but then the overall idea was sort of bohemian chic,
Hmm.
because I think that, of course, she has a lot of influence from her Romani heritage, and especially if you look at like the George Perez run,
Hmm.
the sort of clothes she was wearing in that. But I also think you know, I think trying to merge that with a more modern version of that
Hmm.
is great. I think Bernard Chang's doing a great job of that, in the Sorcerer Supreme series. But when I was doing it, I was trying to infuse like what a chic, you know, modern woman in a big city might be wearing in the present day while still having some of those influences um, in them. So I was, just researching, you know, modern takes on those sorts of styles, and trying to find things that I thought fit Wanda. Um, I love the green as an accent that picks up her eyes, and also a little nod to her first appearance on those X-Men covers when her costume was inexplicably green.
Yeah, one of my favorite random details is like literally in like they've got written in the notes that she was always going to be called some combination like red woman or witch woman, but there she's just green for no reason is
Yeah,
all.
it's just green. Yeah, I never understood that, but I love it as a little like curiosity thing.
Absolutely. I just love that you didn't just go for red because I feel like there's a temptation with Wanda's street style to just make everything she ever wears out of character like red. But I love that it was this like rich green and felt very kind of Wiccan and earthy. Like you'd find her
Oh,
buying
good.
crystals in like a crystal shop.
Yes, yes, exactly. um, that was definitely the vibe. With the red thing, I think the instincts for that is because color is the first thing you notice when you look at really anything. And so it's an easy way to say, oh, that's Wanda because she's in red.
Mhm.
Um, but I think you can get away with that with not doing that when it's like when her name is on the title of the book, and you see her on the cover, that's her anyway.
Absolutely. Is there like you work a lot on covers, but you do inner pages. Do you prefer drawing like covered art, or do you prefer doing those inner pages and getting to like work with the character's story?
I like I like both. I mean, I really love. Well, so the thing is, I'm not fast enough to do interior pages. I take too long. It takes me too long to draw something that's good. And you know, working on Thor, it wasn't. I wasn't doing hard labor or anything, but it was, 7 days a week and long hours, and that's fine when it's, for a period of time, but it's not necessarily sustainable. And covers allow me to spend more time on one image, which I love doing. If you're doing the covers for, the main covers for a series, that usually involves more story elements. So, like when I was doing the main covers for the several Wanda books, those usually tried to tell a little bit of a story. Usually on your number one issue, it's always a pinup. Um, Usually, variant covers are mostly sort of pinups, which I love doing too. Like I really love doing that. But some covers allow you to get some story in there. But I asked to do some interior stuff for various Steve Wanda books, and I was really thrilled to do that. So a little of everything. I think covers suit me better in certain ways.
Do you know how long? Obviously, I'm collecting all of your variant covers for Sorcerer Supreme. Are you going to be doing that for the whole run? Is that, or is it just the ones that we've had so far? Do you know, or can you not tell me?
No, I can tell you. I wish I could say I was doing it for all of them, but they only contracted me for the first five.
Okay.
Um, so uh, I would have loved to, you know, been on that for the duration, but that wasn't my decision.
Well, the ones we do have are amazing. I love when you give us, I love in general in comic books where they give us the breakdown of one of the outfits, like that you've done, where
Oh,
the design is one of my favorite things. One of my goals is to get, when I have a bigger house, is to get a giant poster of your first Hellfire Gala Scarlet Witch in my living room, like a
oh,
giant.
amazing.
But
I was so thrilled that Marvel did the double page spread in the first Sorcerer Supreme issue with the design sheet.
Mhm.
Um, that was really great of editor Alana Smith and Sydney Stubbs to do that. Uh, I was so thrilled to see that in there because that's not always stuff that's included in the comics. Sometimes it might be included in a trade paperback, if at all. But I always loved that stuff growing up when you got to see the design sheets. I think of like the Dave Cockrum X-Men designs from the 70s, where he has these amazing, like, how to draw the X-Men, and it breaks down all the costumes and all his notes. And I love seeing that. So I'm really thrilled they included it.
It's absolutely gorgeous. The lore one as well. You did answer this last time I asked you, but people ask me all the time, so I'm going to ask you again. Obviously, what
Sure.
were your influences for lore? Because a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's Multiverse of Madness. It's Multiverse of Madness," but that isn't the case. So, what were your influences for when you were designing the lore outfit? Because people just love this design.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, it definitely was not supposed to be the MCU Wanda or the Multiverse of Madness Wanda, like not at all in any way. Um, like I shouldn't say that. In one way, it was in that I wanted to replicate the skirt silhouette.
Mhm.
Because we'd seen that a little bit with her Uncanny Avengers costume, but that was really more of a coat, but it had a similar silhouette. So I really wanted to bring that in. But otherwise, the idea was to make her a dark mirror of our
Mhm.
616 Wanda. So the colors are like an inverse. Um, the skin was meant to be like a purple gray so that it looked, like she was dead, like undead. Um, Steve actually suggested giving the dark fabric a texture so it looked sort of like decaying skin, which I really love that detail. And yeah, the other influences were, I researched modern goth fashion and um, macabre art. The horns are a little like Maleficent. Um, yeah, and then I researched. I put some time into designing her earrings, um, which is I sort of carried that over to the Sorcerer Supreme design because I liked that cuff earring idea. So I was looking at like modern goth jewelry, uh, stuff like that. Tim
Mhm.
Burton was a big influence.
Um, you also drawn at pretty much every Avenger now because you did those connecting Avengers covers.
Yeah.
Have literally every Avenger. If you were going to create an Avengers lineup that you were going to draw, who would you want in your Avengers lineup?
Oh wow. Well, Wanda, obviously.
Mhm.
Um,
Because you can
I
still
would pick.
have the X-Men now because they just show up in Avengers.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Let me bring up those Avengers covers. Tigra, because
Hmm.
she's one of my favorites. Hercules
Hmm.
is another of my favorites. I would have Crystal in there.
Yeah,
Um,
doesn't get enough love.
Probably for some drop. Wait, was that?
Doesn't get enough love. Does Crystal?
Oh, I know. I love Crystal. Like in the Vision and Scarlet Witch miniseries where she's like having the affair with the realtor, like all that stuff
Yes.
is really good.
She's like
Um,
it's like Barbie drama.
yes, yes. I put Quicksilver in there, for some more drama. I'd want the book to sell, so I'd probably put Wolverine in. Um, Maybe a Spider-Man. Yeah, that's kind of a lot of people already. Maybe Storm also, 'cause she's an Avenger now.
Yes.
Um,
And
that's a lot of people. So
it
maybe
is
we'd start with that.
very like West Coast Avengers with like an X-Men tinge.
I Yeah, I loved the West Coast Avengers.
Yes, I miss them a little bit. I especially I
Mhm.
love the 90s like their Force Works, but it's basically the West Coast Avengers light.
Yes. Yeah, I thought I was the only person that read Force Works back in the day, but I always liked it because Wanda led the team, and I thought that was a great, little era for her.
Absolutely. I love when Wanda gets to be a team leader. And obviously
Hmm.
they appeared in her 1994 run as well.
Right. For sure.
So, do you have a favorite comic run in general just that you
My favorite, uh, yeah, I mean, not Wanda related, but of all time, it's probably New X-Men by Grant Morrison and largely Frank Quitely. I just think that's like, if you're talking about how to modernize and make a decades old franchise, vibrant and exciting, like that's the template right there. I think that's just such a wonderful run. And it has one of my favorite comics of all time in it. I think it's issue 121,
Mhm.
where Jean and Emma, it's called like Silence Psychic Rescue in Progress, and Jean and Emma go into Xavier's mind, and it's all, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. They go into Xavier's mind, and it's a completely silent issue, or mostly silent, and it's all told through the art. So I love that.
Mhm.
Uh, that's probably my number one favorite. Um, I love, I love the Scarlet Witch from the James Robinson run. I really love, especially the Jordi Belair and Vanessa Del Rey, I think it is. Their issues were
Mhm.
stunning. And the Javier Polito, another silent issue I really love. And what else? The Wonder Woman by George Perez, I love. Just like classic superhero comics. I don't think it really gets much better than that. And I know you asked for one. I'm giving you a whole list.
No,
Another
I could never pick one when they ask me and
yeah.
start to list five because there's too many.
If I could give one more, a recent one, it's Friday by Ed Brubaker and Marcos Martin. If you haven't read that, it's just a truly wonderful comic. Sort of a Nancy Drew esque mystery, with just some of the best art I think you'll ever see.
We'll have to add it to our review list for the show. Do you ever work on any original characters for yourself, or do you work almost entirely with, I mean, I know you're under contract with Marvel, but is there anything that you'd
Mhm.
love to put out that's just yours?
I haven't in um, over a decade. Before I started working at uh, Marvel, and before that DC, I have ideas, and I have folders of things that I started to come up with, but then the superhero stuff really just took over. And if I'm honest, that's always where my passion was. It was with these characters that I grew up with and that I've loved for my whole life. So I mean, such a thrill to get to work on them, let alone getting to design new costumes for them and all that. That's really where my focus is.
Absolutely. I just wanted to, make sure that we were acknowledging all of your work always.
Mhm.
Because just from a fan's perspective, it just feels like every idea I've ever wanted for Wanda, you'll just come out with and then just make it better.
Oh,
Which is why
that's amazing to hear. Thank you.
my petition is for Quicksilver to get his own run and for you to draw Crystal and Pietro together because I just don't feel like he gets the love these days that maybe he deserves. Um,
I totally agree. Like, I would do that in a heartbeat. I would design new costumes for both of them in a heartbeat. Although I really like the Quicksilver's current one, but yeah, I'd love that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and giving us your time. Obviously, we can see your work in Sorcerer Supreme. If you're buying the variant covers and you obviously designed the look and your art book, is there anything else that you would love people to go check out for you? What's coming next for you?
There, well, just last week or so, I'm doing the cover for this year's Marvel Pride special, which is a Wiccan and Hulkling themed book. And the cover is, the whole WandaVision family. So got Wanda in the Sorcerer Supreme costume and Vision and their kids, which was just an absolute thrill for me to do. I've wanted to do a family portrait like that for a long time. So that'll be out at the end of May in time for Pride. There's a couple other little Wanda things that I can't talk about. And yeah, I've got that story in Spider-Man Superman coming out. I'm doing covers for a new X-Men book called X-Men Outback. But yeah, I mean, if you like my Scarlet Witch stuff, one of my favorite things I've ever put out is this art book, the Marvel art of Russell Dauterman with through Marvel and a great book publisher, Clover Press, and that has my Wanda designs in it and most of the covers. And yeah, I was super thrilled to do that. And if you like my stuff, that's a great thing to pick up.
It's absolutely stunning, and it's basically available literally everywhere. I got my copy from Waterstones, but you can get it from Forbidden Planet or Amazon, and you can put the link.
Amazing.
We'll put the link to your website, of course, in the description, and your Instagram, where you're pretty active, so it's definitely give you a follow.
Yeah, Instagram's the best place to find me. And thanks for picking up the book. I'm so happy to hear that you got it.
Of course. Thank you so much for giving us your time. It's been so wonderful to have you on. Thank you for all of your work, and until we see you next time, stay magical.
Yeah, stay magical.
So we're back. Thank you so much to Russell for doing that interview for us. And please do check out all of his work, whether that be buy comics or use his website or buy the art book, which is just beyond like a Wonder fan's wildest dreams or an X-Men fan's wildest dreams. I really do recommend it as a Wonder collector.
All his publicizing, all the stuff he references, the Superman, Spider-Man. I think he said it was May. I think it was. He said that was coming. Something I did. Yeah. We've got links all in the description. Look under the description, you'll see it.
I will link where to get Sorcerer Supreme comics. I know some people do struggle to pick up comics. But we're back. This is us back now. Next week we will be back with our Wonder Man review.
The much belated Wonder Man review, and I'm looking forward to it because
I thought it was.
I liked
it. I loved it a lot. I thought it was amazing. And then we will review two issues of Sorcerer Supreme, kind of in one.
Yeah.
1 week, and then we will be back onto a normal-ish rota.
Yeah.
But we'll do a bit of catch up, and then we will be fresh and funky. And obviously, news will be back as of next week. There was no news this week because this is a big one. You guys didn't need me complicating this with news. But thank you so much for sticking with us. The number of downloads we've had while we've been away has shocked me.
Yeah, the support you guys have given. I mean, not just the downloads, but even just like checking in on Hannah and well, both of us. Like, it's been really great, and we really appreciate it.
I could not appreciate you guys more. Even just the lovely comments that you leave about enjoying my videos or how I inspired you to collect, or because Russell's someone who inspires me because I just think his designs are beautiful. But the fact that I could have any kind of impact on you guys' life is just so touching. And I'm just genuinely from my heart, thank you for everything.
Thank you to all those supporting us on Patreon as well. Patreon links are underneath. Like I said, it will be the MCU commentaries. They'll be launching back up again. And any new interviews we've got coming up, please, I mean, if you sign up to Patreon, you get first access, first questions through us.
We'll post on Patreon when we have an interview, and we will take Patreon questions first, of course. And yeah,
the MCU commentaries, and yeah, so that's all linked up below.
If you miss me in between times, I do still post, even in hospital.
Yes, you do.
On my TikTok, which is Into the Wonderverse, my Instagram, The Wonderverse, and then pretty much everywhere else, Into the Wonderverse or The Wonderverse. Hannah Maximoff. Find me. Nick, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, the film Nick. I've actually have been working on doing screenplay reviews, and I'm actually working on a screenplay review of an unmade movie. So that's something that's going to come up. The move kind of delayed it, but I have been working on it, and Nick is going to work on the film. Nick is going to work on content, and you can also find me on Letterboxd at the film Nick as well, where I'm kind of trying to watch some of the Oscar movies that are coming up. Ooh. That's a reference.
I'm owning it. Of course, our beautiful art is done by the wonderful Lily. You can find her work linked in the description. Music by Melody Ray Griffiths. And until I see you next time, stay magical.